Welcome to the FCICA webinar series. Thank you for joining us. This webinar will be recorded, and the recorded session will be housed on the FCICA Member Center and this educational portal. Mark your calendars for these upcoming webinars. On Thursday, March 11th, join us for Innovative Solutions for Subfloor Prep and Repair, presented by Heather Rice, Director of Commercial Sales, Midwest Division, Maxon Corporation. And on Thursday, March 18th, join us for The Person Everyone Dreads, the Floor Covering Inspector, presented by David Sealand, Principal and Founder of ISE Logic. And finally, on Thursday, March 25th, join us for Commercial Flooring Installation, Fastening for the Future, presented by Dave Darsh, National Marketing Manager, Adhesives A&D, Bona, US. Visit FCICA.com to view and register for these webinars. FCICA has recently updated the safety book, Start with Safety. It is available electronically, free to members, and printed versions are available for $185. The safety book is an essential item to have in your office and on every job site. Purchase it on FCICA's website today. Thank you for joining us for the risk of high moisture in flooring, what you need to know. We are pleased to introduce our speakers, David Stowell, Technical Service Specialist, and Curtis Colegrove, Technical Support with GCP Applied Technologies. Curtis Colegrove has been in the flooring industry for over 35 years, first as an installer for 27 years, then later moving into flooring sales. His certifications include IICRC Resilient Flooring Inspector, IICRI Substrate Subfloor Inspector, and Tier 2 of the ICRI Concrete Slab Moisture Testing Technician. He is also an FCICA CIM Certified Installation Manager. In his current position with GCP Applied Technology, Curtis oversees installation and troubleshooting, a role he has held for the last 5 years. David Stowell has professionally served in the flooring industry for over 30 years, providing technical and sales assistance to manufacturers, distributors, contractors, OEM accountants, and end users. He has provided both internal and external support to sales staff and management by developing and distributing warranty info, specifiers guides, installation instructions and procedures, and claim resolution warranty programs. David has also developed claim correspondence, tracking, and monitoring of the entire compliant resolution progress. Curtis and David, welcome. We are excited to have you. I'm going to turn the controls over to you.
Thank you, Billy. Curtis and I want to welcome everybody to today's product webinar on Kovara moisture barrier systems. And we want to also recognize that not only is Curtis a CIM, but we both fully support and recognize the importance of the Certified Installation Manager program. We support this wholeheartedly, and we believe it's the best training for an installation manager in the industry. So if you're not already a CIM, or if you don't have CIMs with your business, we highly recommend doing that. Just a quick overview of our agenda today. It's pretty self-explanatory, but we are going to go over the risk of high moisture in flooring and what you need to know. We're going to go over some flooring challenges and then also go over a brief history of our company and then specific to our Kovara VersaShield product. So industry problems. As we know and as we learn, in our daily activities, installing floors, you can have moisture issues. But it's unfortunate once the floor is installed that you have a claim or a moisture problem. Obviously, this is a wood floor. It could certainly be cut too tight along different wall areas, but also could be a moisture-related issue. Or you install a floor such as this in a gymnasium, sport flooring, if you will, and maybe we didn't do the moisture testing properly, or maybe there was no evidence of a moisture issue, but then down the road, the environment changed underneath the slab and created a moisture problem. So in this case, mitigation would be a solution, obviously replacing the floor. Why so many problems in floor covering? Well, there's faster construction schedules. There's different products, and the breathability of those products is evolving and changing on a regular basis, year in, year out. There's many changes to adhesives. There's a total battle within adhesive, whether it's a private label adhesive or an adhesive brand, where you've seen the RH go from, back in the day to 75 RH, and now you have these 95, 98, 100% RH adhesives, no moisture tested needed. So we're going to go over that. But or remodeling of structures. You'll have a warehouse that is going to be converted to an office building. And so there's a lot of existing concrete slab issues. So proper moisture testing is needed. Building designs, when you have a new building or a new slab, we do recommend, and we would want a effective vapor retarder, but that's not always the case. So concrete components, this is just a 30,000 foot view. This is kind of the makeup of a standard slab or a concrete mix design. You see the different percentages. That's basically what concrete is, correct? The thing that we like to look at, and we teach and train for our customers, is that curing, there's a difference between curing and drying. Curing a slab is not the same as drying a slab. The standard is 28 days as far as ACI 302. That's every manufacturer in the industry of floor covering is going to want a dry slab, minimum 28 days curing. That's only when the conditions are conducive for those situations. But because of the fast drying process and the speed of a fast-paced job site, that's not always the case. So here you see moisture in a slab, and as I'm clicking through, you're seeing the slab in those 30 days evaporating through the surface. And in normal conditions, this is with a slab just not being worked on, being capped, being, other trades. And as you see, this normally is the process with your drier surface and then the wetter underneath, depending on the thickness of the slab. And at some point, we're going to cover that with a floor covering, as you see here. This could also be a rolled mitigation system, such as VersaShield. And what happens is that moisture then continues to rise to the surface. Providing it's equalized, only then will the floor covering stay intact and you won't have issues. But if we cap it too soon, or if there's heavy moisture underneath the slab in the earth, that could pose a situation as well for high moisture. And at some point in a perfect world, we have an equalized amount of moisture throughout the slab. That doesn't typically happen when you have a moisture-related concern. So this chart basically shows RH and moisture vapor emission rate, and there's no comparison to the two tests. And we're going to talk about the specific tests being RH and calcium chloride testing. But what we look at as far as our danger zone is when we get into the 5% MVER or moisture vapor emission rate and upwards of 90%, to 100, most meters read to a 99 as far as an RH is concerned. That's really the danger zone where you're going to need to take some type of action with regard to a rolled moisture mitigation barrier. So what we like to say at Kovara is install today and you have business tomorrow. In the industry, most experts say that moisture is a frequent problem for flooring. It's over $1 billion in the industry annually. Why is that? Well, as we said earlier, aggressive fast-track schedules, slabs can't just air dry. There's sometimes no under slab barrier or what we call a moisture vapor retarder. 28 days is our standard curing time, but some slabs, depending on how the admix design is constructed, can take much longer than that. So here you see what we were showing you earlier, where you have the water as these blue small circles, and it's heavier above the orange line. Now, what the orange line in this slide section shows you is that's the moisture vapor retarder that most manufacturers want you to have as far as relates to floor covering. Barriers like this will eliminate moisture from the ground and underneath the earth that is ever changing. The water of convenience, typically in concrete, if you have a low VOC concrete or something specified in an admix design that has low VOCs, that typically means more water. So how do you test for this? Well, for the longest time, as long as I've been in the business, and Curtis as well, the calcium chloride test was a good test to determine how much water is coming up through the surface in that 1 square foot clear box that you see there. This, however, is just a snapshot in time of the ½ inch or so of that concrete surface. And so it's just a picture of what's going on in that moment. Fast forward to RH testing, or relative humidity testing, ASTM 2170. This is widely used, and this is what we would require, as any flooring manufacturer would require. You want to get moisture testing done in the proper way, and we're going to talk about just that and why. So this is the standard test method for determining relative humidity in a concrete slab. You're going to drill a hole 40% of the slab thickness, 20% if it's a suspended slab, because it's drying from 2 sides. But that 40% depth in a slab thickness that's on grade is key. We're going to cap and insert the probe and cap it and wait 24 hours and then take readings. Now you're getting a quantified RH reading. And this is a picture of what the floor covering, as if the floor covering was installed on that slab. That's what the probe does for us. And so as the concrete dries, moisture migrates from the bottom to the top. And the probes provide a relative humidity picture of what it would be like if that slab was covered with floor covering, or in our case, a rolled mitigation barrier. So this gets to us to pH testing, which is still part of the ASTM F710. And you want to, first I would say, you want to have a standard practice and understand this document. F710 is a very good document to understand how to properly prepare a slab. We talk about it all the time. You want to remove contaminants. You want to test for pH. You make sure you don't have high alkalinity. But this is the standard practice for all floor covering to receive a resilient floor, whether it be LVT or VCT or sheet goods or even Kovara moisture barrier. The pH testing is important, but this is more of a subjective method, because if you've seen this before, it's a small packet and it has litmus strips, and you'll put deionized water on the surface of the slab, let it sit for a few minutes, and then you would take that strip and it will change color. And the challenge with this is I may see a 7 being green, and someone else might see that same color being darker or be a 10. So it's a very subjective method. So Curtis actually has one of these devices, and this is an electronic device that's a more quantitative method of testing. Curtis? Curtis, you're muted.
Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, this gives you that quantitative number versus trying to figure out if you got the right color, if you're lining up correctly. If you're colorblind, you're out of luck. So this will give you a quantitative number as far as what your pH number is. In this slide here, when you have moisture and you have a food source, which could be old glue, drywall dust, drywall mud, anything that is on that surface, and you have a moisture problem, it can create mold growth or mildew. And as you can see, you can get spores on your finished flooring. And this one, I believe everyone's probably seen this picture one time or another. Severe moisture damage to this tile. And as you can see, it's a disaster. It's just curled and cupped and turned into a potato chip. Kovara. flooring issues for business. This is a project that was a case study for us that in the middle of it, they had a failure. So they didn't want to remove all the cubicles. So they used Kovara as a viable solution. It was, after the moisture issue was discovered, there was curling carpet tiles, mid-install, and it was probably 25% complete. The epoxy option was, an $80,000 additional cost. And then you're adding a few more days to the schedule. Then they have to have a furniture mover to remove the cubicles, IT, the whole works. Then you got to shop blast and patch. Well, with the rolled moisture barrier, Kovar, you can do an occupied space with cubicles, by lifting the cubicles, and you can get the material, the membrane, underneath the cubicles. And it was half the cost of the epoxy. The project was back on schedule. The cubicles left intact, and we could work around it. This here is another case study of a retail store that was done overnight, addressing the moisture issues. The rolled moisture barrier, which is great if you have an occupied space or you have a space such as this retail application where they have to be up and running come morning. You can get in, you can demo all the floor, do your floor prep, install the barrier. And once that barrier is on the floor, your seams are sealed, you can install your finished flooring. You'll be open for the next day of business. No loss of business, no loss of revenue for your customer.
Thanks, Curtis. So moisture mitigation options, we believe there's a big misnomer or misinformation campaign that's in the industry. And a lot of jobs that we come across have been used a high performance adhesive, meaning a high RH adhesive. That's not a mitigation surface. That's not a mitigation option. Even though the adhesive may say it's 99 or 100% RH, if you read the warranty of those products, that's not going to lend itself to be a moisture-related warranty if, in fact, the adhesive fails because of moisture. So a high moisture adhesive is simply just that. It's not a mitigation system. There's a high failure rate, application difficulties. A lot of times you have to, diamond grind the slab before those high performance adhesives goes on the surface. There's no, for extreme conditions, there's really no warranty. So I would just caution when using those high moisture adhesives. Which brings us to a rolled moisture barrier such as Kovara VersaShield. And what you have here is a membrane that's reinforced with a mineral top coat that's a non-porous surface. It's installed with double-phase tape, and we also have a self-adhered product that's AB300. And all the seams are taped with all three different systems, and we'll go through the three different system products we have. So the pro to this is very cost-effective for Kovara rolled moisture barrier. The application is verifiable. We do job-specific warranties. There's a 10-year warranty regardless whether we do a job-specific warranty or not. And you have minimal prep and downtime, as Curtis outlined in, say, the lift system with a business such as that cubicle demonstration we showed you. Really, there's no con as far as we're concerned. As far as Kovara, we can be a solution for a lot of projects. Now, we're not a solution for everything, but we're a solution for more often than not many projects. But there are obviously competitors to our product line. They're not all created equal. They all don't have dimensional stability. They don't have lay flat properties. That's what Kovara has. Dimensional stability, proven 13, 14 years of success with millions of square feet installed with dimensional stability, lay flat properties, and no toxic additives. Other mitigation opportunities or different product lines out there, obviously epoxies have been around for a long time. The downside is the time. You have to shot blast. You have to clean the contaminants and shot blast effectively. Then you would have to use your two-part epoxy system and spread that evenly as far as the mill thickness required by the manufacturer. That often can, if you do have contaminants left on the slab, pinholes can happen. You can have chemical reactions happening on the slab if there's contaminants. It's a longer process. More often than not, the flooring manufacturer wants to have a cementitious layer for adhesive bonding, which will require priming in some cases, and then either skim coating or self-leveling. So again, it's more time, more drying time, which is going to delay the opening of the business for the end user or building owner. The pro to epoxy mitigation, it's history. I mean, it's been done for a very long time. It's effective, and it's 100% RH. The downside is the time constraints. The time constraints are costly. It's messy. There are certain situations with silica dust and all the things regarding diamond grinding and sanding and dust, and there's lost revenue and lost business. Understand this. We have to, as an industry, Curtis and I will get calls, and our sales team will get calls after the fact. We have a moisture problem. The floor is installed. The floor is failing. 50% of the slabs will not pass, 75% RH, and 20% of the slabs out there are going to be 95% or higher. So we have to do the testing up front and plan for a moisture mitigation or some type of direction not to have a failure. So how do you do that? Planning for it means to specify it, or at least put it in your bid to, in the event of high moisture, you can have that built into the cost of the job, so you're not trying to do a change order and the building owner or the business owner doesn't want to pay for those things. So it's very important to plan for mitigation in many cases. A rolled moisture barrier is in different specs, as far as this one being a CSI spec, and you can get it specified on the front end of a new project, meaning new concrete. Preparation, we want to, the same thing. We want to have a properly controlled system for the concrete slab to achieve what the flooring manufacturer wants and what they require as far as a properly dried slab. So to just give you a quick overview of who GCP is, we're known, as Kovara VersaShield, but this is the family of products that GCP Applied Technology sells and manufactures here in the States and across the world. So we have specialty construction chemicals, which are water reducer, which are concrete systems, concrete cement additives on one side, and then Kovara falls on the right side under specialty building materials, which is waterproofing, air barriers, roofing underlayments, fire protection, which is Monocoat, which is a huge business for us, and then flooring underlayments falls under the Kovara brand there. What it tells you is there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of cross technology, and what we learned from one business, you'll learn about AB300, how we developed AB300 from our other business. Curtis?
Kovara, formerly VersaShield, and that's what most people still know us by as VersaShield. When our company was purchased, Halex was acquired by, at the time, Grace, and then Grace changed her name to GCP Applied Technologies. They wanted to do a brand change, so they named the product Kovara. It is the same product, it's just a name change. It does the same thing as it did previously when it was VersaShield, just strictly a brand change there. There's no change whatsoever. It still has, we're still working on advancing technologies, to solve flooring moisture issues. And again, we're backed by GCP, one of the leaders in the industry for construction products and technology. Moisture barriers, advancing flooring protection. First, it's a prefabricated moisture barrier. There's over 60 plus million square feet that have been installed and constantly trying to push new boundaries. Kovara, sheet membranes for moisture mitigation. The great thing about it is it's up to 50% faster than an epoxy install. There's no shot blasting, no self-leveler. It's prefabricated, easy installation. You can install over an existing flooring. That is the flooring if it is well bonded, smooth and flat, no cushion back material. It's dimensionally, stable. It's got great lay flat properties. It has a fiberglass mesh that gives it that lay flat properties. I mean, if you roll out, it doesn't want to spring back on you, say, a sheet vinyl would. It won't roll or curl on you. It doesn't potato chip on the edges. It's resistant to heavy rolling loads. We have new self-adhered product, and we have the box grid application as it states there. It's complete protection for the seams, because that's going to be your place of least resistance, is at the seams. There's no interaction or contamination of the substrate floor covering, and you do not need a primer. A primer is not needed for this product. It has a 10-year limited replacement warranty, and you get support from Dave and myself. If you have never installed our product, then you can give us a call, and time permitting, we could be on the job startup to assist your installers in, the ins, the outs, the do's and don'ts of installing our product. Again, it's pretty simple, pretty basic, but it's always nice to know the ins and outs when you're installing a new product. Kovara moisture barriers. There are 3 products. We have the Kovara 95, which is a gray color, and it goes up to 95% RH. Then the Kovara MBX, which is a blue, royal blue, it goes up to 99.5. And our newest product, which has probably been on the market maybe for a year and a half now, is also blue, and it goes up to 99.5 as well. And you can see all the physical properties of the products. Dave?
Yes, we still require RH testing, and we certainly support, as I said, F710 as far as what we want for a properly prepared slab. But in that document, there's also the reference to moisture testing. And so we definitely want you to test for RH testing in this case. And understand that it's 3 tests for the first 1,000 square feet and 1 test for each 1,000 thereafter. And the reason behind that is if you're doing 3 tests for the first 1,000 and then 1 test for each 1,000 after, a cement truck holds about 1,000 square feet of slab or concrete. And so in theory, the reasoning is then you're testing almost every truckload, depending on the square foot of the job. So hopefully that makes sense. But that's the reasoning behind why they do that method in that regard. So material and substrate prep. We want the material, this is our Kovara on this upper right picture. We want it acclimated in the building prior to the installation, just as floor covering materials are required to be. We want a properly prepared slab, whether that's, adhesive is removed, mechanically removed, that is, or scraped away. The floor is patched and prepared properly, again, according to F710, which the picture on the left, bottom left, we have a situation, we see this just as much as everyone that is in floor covering along the process of installing floors. This isn't a properly prepared slab. Yes, he's patched the expansion joint or the saw cut in this slab, but what he's left is all the paint residue, all the drywall compound, the orange paint from whatever was sprayed on the floor. All those chemicals, or I should say all those contaminants, really need to be mechanically removed. A simple diamond brush on a swing machine will prepare this slab. So it's not necessarily something you need to get a shot blasting for or a grinder, but we like the diamond brush that can go on a swing machine and clean all this up, and then the slab would be swept and cleaned and vacuumed so it's properly prepared.
Kovara 95 MBX grid system. With the 95 and the MBX, we may suggest that you use a 5x5 grid or a 2.6-2.6 grid. And what this does is going to give better stabilization for that membrane on that substrate. If you have, rolling loads, moderate rolling loads, and we always suggest that you do 30-foot cuts, and then you would have an end seam and stagger your seams. You never want to overlap, because obviously if you overlap the seams, it's going to telegraph through your finished flooring. Here is the Kovara MBX. As you can see, it's all laid out. They got the seams taped up. Once those seams are taped up, that's when you can install your finished flooring. So if you have a building that, for sake of argument, if it's a 50 by 100 foot building, you can do half the building with your membrane, and you can have guys start installing, and then you continue on installing the membrane while your finished flooring is going down. And as you see, they have a J roller there that you would, use on vinyl seams. That's all you need to roll the seams, or just a small hand roller. You don't need a 3-wheel, 7,500 pound roller to roll the seams. And on here, we also have the grid system, and showing the finished flooring going down. It's like I said, once the membrane is on that floor, it's on that substrate, you can start spreading glue and start installing your material. There is no downtime from once that material is on the floor and the seams are taped, it's ready to install on. Right here, we see in that left frame there, that one on the set, which says wet set adhesives. If you have a true wet set installation, say linoleum, or if it's rubber tile where it's going in wet or semi-wet, you're going to want to do a double pass skim coat. It's to act as a blotter coat to alleviate some of that moisture in the adhesive. Keep in mind that even with the double pass skim coat, our product is still considered a non-porous product. And then in the center picture, you have installers going to be installing over one layer, non-cushion, existing resilient flooring. And again, it's got to be well bonded. You don't want any kind of deflections in the existing flooring. Clean, smooth, and flat. And you can install a membrane over it. And sometimes with going over an existing, a lot of times the 95 can be used as planned removal. We've had projects, since COVID, you have these hospitals, these makeshift hospitals, medical centers that, it's just going to be down for 3 months, 4 months. So they just want a temporary substrate, something with a bondable surface. That's where the 95 comes in. It's really huge in that market. Or if you have a historical building, museums, they don't want to damage the existing flooring. They could use a 95 to just go right over it. And again, you have a bondable substrate. And then the picture on the right, that is a 2.6 by 2.6 grid. That gives it, for those specialty materials that may want to move, they might want to expand or whatever. This really locks the membrane in place. It gives it a real sturdy substrate there. Again, you got a bondable substrate that's not going to be moving underfoot. This is another one of our case studies. This is the TripAdvisor headquarters. I believe this was in Boston, done in 2016, 200,000 square feet. And it wasn't just the bottom floor. It was all the floors because it was a fast track construction site. They had major delays and, the timeline with the weather, delayed HVAC installation. So they had to get the flooring in. They had to get this building done. So they went with Kovara, which served the purpose for them. There is no epoxy on this whatsoever. And you have various finished floorings from linoleum to LVT to sheet vinyl and carpet tile. This was another great project here. This was a UCLA, I believe this was 2015, 2016. They had a major water pipe break. And the guy walking there is not walking on a gloss covered floor. That's water. It had 8 to 10 inches of water. So they removed the water. As soon as the water was removed, and they had some fans air drying the place, they installed Kovara and had the court, and they had the auditorium. They had that court up and running for opening season. This is an illustration of our newest product we're reintroducing. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Kovara AB300, AB Advanced Bond. This, again, has been on the market for about a year, year and a half. And the great thing about this adhesive, it's a pressure-sensitive adhesive. And this comes from one of our other products within the GCP line, the pre-proof product. It's our technology on this adhesive. And this adhesive they use in subterranean garages. They use it in pour-in-place concrete. And the moisture does not affect the adhesive. And that's a question I get asked. I says, well, if there's a moisture problem, why are you putting a glue down? Well, again, this is impervious to the moisture within the slab and also alkalinity resistant. You know, it's got the easy pill and stick release liner that's split down the middle. This is great for heavy traffic or rolling loads such as hill run beds and, you know, such as that. And as I just mentioned, you know, idea for heavy traffic and rolling loads. As you can see, they have a hill run bed going down the corridor. Once this product is on the floor, once it's on the substrate, all you do is walk on it. You do not have to use a 100-pound roller to make it bond. I mean, once you walk on it, it sticks. You know, then obviously when you put your flooring down, you're going to be rolling it with a 100-pound roller with your finished flooring per manufacturer's recommendations. So that's just going to give it an even stronger bond. Real tenacious bond with this adhesive. There's no shot blasting, no self-leveling. You know, there is no primer, as I mentioned earlier, and it's backed by the 10-year limited warranty. And this would illustrate the double-face tape, which you still have to use because your seams are your place of least resistance for any moisture coming up from that slab. So you have the double-face tape at your seams. That's where you're going to get your protection. So it eliminates all that extra tape if we're going to do a 5x5 or 2x6 box grid. This eliminates the time and the extra tape to do that. Now you're only taping the seams. Oh, and let me mention this. With the AB300, we just got the okay from R&D that topical tape for the AB300 will not be necessary when you're installing the AB300. You know, it was a while in the making, but R&D gave us the go-ahead, so there is no topical tape that will be needed when you install the AB300. And this picture here depicts the back of the AB300, and that's the release liner. You know, it's again, it's just a rollout membrane. You know, you'll line up your seams, get them, lined up. You'll pull it back. You'll pull half the release liner, lay it back down on the seam. You can do the other side. You'll flop that back, pull off the release liner, and gently lay it back down. Once it's down on the floor, then you can pull the release liner from the double-face tape, and then your seam is ready to go. It's that easy, that simple. And again, it's a great product for one of our big niches is in the healthcare industry. Hospitals, institutions, assisted living, where you can't get in, you can't bead blast, you can't grind the substrates, and you have to phase it out carefully to where you're not shutting down a certain wing. So it's a great product for that. And which product is right for you? You know, you got the Kovara 95, which goes up to 95% RH. You know, no rolling loads, light foot traffic, vinyl carpet tile. And again, as I mentioned earlier, planned flooring removal. Then you have the Kovara MBX, which goes up to 99.5. No rolling loads, light foot traffic. Again, you got your vinyl carpet, LVTs. You can use it for planned removal if you want, but a little more costly. And then you have our AB300. Again, goes up to 99.5, moderate to heavy rolling loads, in-foot traffic, and you can install just about all floor coverings over it. Dave.
Thank you, Curtis. Here you'll see our web link, and that web link there is where you can find our installation instructions, our tech data sheets, our letters, our technical letters, if you will, case studies, guide specs, warranty information, as well as contact a local sales representative on our team. But we do have plenty of documents like this that are out there on the internet, and we'd be happy to mail hard copies to anyone that requests one. And so this brings us to the point where we're ready to now answer some questions that may be coming in. And the first question I see, Curtis, is can you put ceramic on Kovara or over Kovara?
Yes, you can install ceramic over Kovara. We just would like you or recommend that you use a modified thin set when you do so. That's basically the only requirement. If you were doing it with Kovara 95 or MBX, we're going to want you to put a grid system under that membrane. And that's the only major things you really have to do. Nothing crazy, nothing outlandish, but you're going to want to apply a grid system underneath that membrane prior to installing your ceramic.
So thin set would be mixed with, say, the latex milk rather than water when you're mixing the thin set bag. Right. And then there's another question. Can you install rubber tiles on your product?
Yes, you can install rubber tiles. And again, when you get into your specialty flooring, such as your rubber tile, your linoleums, your forbos or whatever it is, if it's a specialty flooring, we like to be contacted. And what we will do, Dave or myself will send you a Excel document that you can fill out right at your computer. It has questions on it. And one of the main things that we look at is the actual material installed and the adhesive. That's one of our main things that we like to look at. And then we're going to say, well, you're going to have to do a double pass skim coat or this, that, or the other. And we can write up a job specific document for that project.
There's another question, Curtis. On a grid pattern install, the double face tape always grabs the Kovara when sliding the drops around. Any tips on doing a grid pattern install?
So grid pattern install, you're talking about the 4-inch double face tape, and you're putting the grid down. You're always going to chalk out your lines first, and you're always going to install your membrane tape first. Once your membrane tape is down, that'll be at 5-foot increments. Okay, then you can go the other way with your tape. You could either go all the way across and you'll cut out that little excess square, but what you're going to want to do is do your seam first. Once you do your seam first and you get it taped down, then it locks those pieces in place. They're not going to move on you. And again, you should be doing 30-foot increments on your cuts. So you're going to have an inseam every 30 foot, and those seams will be staggered with each row that you have. I don't know if it helps.
Yeah, and the 30 feet length is really just so that two men can handle the sheet.
Correct. That our product runs pretty true, but for those of you that have been around, and I always like to use broadloom carpet as an example. Okay, if you have a 100-foot cut of a broadloom carpet, and maybe for the first 40, 50 feet, the seam is on, but when you gradually go down and you get to the end, you're an inch off. You have an inch gap. So obviously, with carpet, a broadloom carpet, you can kick it over, roll it in, roll that bubble out in the glue. Well, with our membrane, because it has its lay flat properties, that's all it wants to do. So if you had a 100-foot cut rolled out and you had 40 feet on, but it starts gradually going off at the end, and you try to bring that around, what you're going to do is you're going to create a bubble in that membrane. And that's all that membrane wants to do is lay flat, so that bubble will stay in there. You would have to cut that bubble out. So that's why we like to have it every 30 foot, you have an inseam. That way you don't have the problem of trying to bring your seam on in a long cut, say 100-foot, 75-foot cut, whatever it is. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. If there's if they have specific questions, they can always email or call us. There's another question. Can you install NORA homogeneous welded with flash coving in operating rooms?
Yes, you can. And if you are installing in a, where you haven't installed your cove stick, you can run the Kovar all the way to the wall. You can put your cove stick right on top of the membrane, and again, it depends on if that cove stick is already there. And if you're using, say, 95 or MBX, you're going to want to tape all around the perimeter. That way, when you're putting in the cove, it's not pushing back on the membrane and it's not going to bubble on you. But if you have, say, AB300, you don't have to worry about that because it's going to have a bond throughout that surface, throughout the whole room. But yes, you can do it. And obviously, you're going to refer to manufacturer's recommendations as far as heat welding. It's generally done the following day. There are some products where you can heat weld the same day, but I'm pretty certain with NORA, it will have to be the following day where you heat weld. And it's not going to affect the membrane.
Correct. Yeah, there's another question that says, do you have videos showing the installation of techniques for all three products? And the answer is yes, we do have installation videos. There's another question that says, can you install a wood sports floor over this product and anchor it through the Kovara? If you anchor through the Kovara, you're going to, penetrate the membrane, and there goes your moisture membrane. So you can install floating wood or glue down wood on top of Kovara, but no, you don't want to penetrate or perforate the Kovara membrane. It defeats the purpose, obviously. Then there's a good question, Curtis. What is the moisture value of the tape and the seams?
You mean moisture value as far as RH numbers?
Yes, I think that's what the person is asking.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same as the product. It's going to be the same as the membrane. It's going to give you that protection, 99.5, and above. And that's the way the tape is designed. If it wasn't designed like that, we'd have a lot of seam failures. And as a matter of fact, if you had Kovara 95 installed and it doesn't use a 4-inch double-phase tape underneath and it just uses topical tape, generally, if that topical tape gets blown off, then the RH in that slab is generally above 95.
Right. Let's see. What about abated slabs?
Oh, gosh. Get asked this one a great deal of time. And that is a very controversial subject there. With an abated slab, we're only going to look at a soy-based abatement chemical. We've been working with a couple companies, and hopefully we're going to have some results here in the next few months. But the thing about an abated slab is we definitely do not want to go over anything that has a petroleum or citrus-based remover due to possible bond failure with the tape or with the AB adhesive as well. And the other thing is, what we can suggest is you do a surfactant scrub over that slab, and you definitely want to do a bond test prior to installing the product. And another thing that we've seen, by going out, because I also look at, claims occasionally, and what we have seen in the past is, whatever particulates, we don't know the depth as far as how they penetrate, how far down into that slab they have penetrated. And there are some chemicals that are so caustic, and we don't know what every chemical is and the chemical makeup, that it affected the finished flooring. Just from coming up with moisture driven to the surface, then they would affect the finished flooring. Seen it a lot with carpet tile and LVT, also with sheet vinyl. So that being said, yeah, we could go over an abated slab, but we couldn't warranty what would happen to that finished flooring, say if it started to cup and curl due to, chemicals that were in the slab because it could pass through our membrane. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, these are all, anytime there's specialty flooring or a question on, ceramic or wood or abatement, that's a good time to give Curtis or myself a call and let's discuss it. If we got to do a job walk, we will. There's another question that's commonly asked, Curtis, and, the RH factor is 99.5, and I'll get this from time to time. People will say, well, why not 100%? Will Kovara GCP warrant to 100% RH?
Yes, we will. And again, we're going to look at the criteria of the project, the scope of the job, materials being installed, adhesives, so on and so forth. And we could write up a job-specific warranty for that particular project. It's been done before. I don't know if we've ever turned one down. We always just like to look at the job prior to.
I think that's all the questions we have. So Curtis and I want to thank you. Curtis is in the Arizona Republic, and I'm coming to you from the great state of Georgia. And we're available. Please give us a call or email us if you have any questions, and we'd be happy to help you with your moisture mitigation project. So with that, I'll say thank you and turn it back to Billy or Christine.
Thanks, David. And Curtis, thank you both for a great presentation today. Sims, you may now navigate to the Submit Credit tab to receive credit. Please note that you must be signed into the education platform for this feature to work. If you have any issues, please let us know. This does conclude today's webinar. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we all hope you have a great rest of your day.